Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. Plenty to talk about this week. UFC Fight Night Vegas 72, Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone is in the books. We're going to be discussing that, the whole card, all of the results, what happens next, what fights we'd like to see. Bare knuckle boxing had arguably its best ever night. We'll be discussing that a little bit. I have seen those fights, Josh has not. And seeing as it was not the most stacked UFC card of all time, explaining why our pick show never actually dropped, we'll be explaining that during the episode. We probably are going to be touching a little bit on the NFL draft, which happened last weekend as well. Mixed number of picks, mixed receptions on our two teams' final draft, but reason for optimism, more for you than for me, but we'll be discussing that. As always, like, subscribe, comment, give us your thoughts and opinions on everything that we discuss. I'm, of course, Matt, joined by host and producer Josh.
How's it going?
How are we today, Josh?
I feel very unwell today. Today's been a long day already. But it's bank holiday.
Day?
Yeah. Gotta love that. Gotta love the 3-day weekend. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Pretty well. Good weekend. Started boxing again on Saturday with our mutual friend Miguel, which has left me extremely sore considering I didn't really do that much. I pulled my groin in the warm-up. That's always a bad thing. Fucking doing the squats at the beginning, warming up, every time I bent my legs a little bit, it was just like, oh Jesus, that pain. But it feels good to actually be doing this first exercise of the year. And we're in May, which is not great, but good to finally actually be a little bit active.
I mean, you need a break after Christmas, don't you? So
Yeah, I think 4 months is probably a longer break than needed.
Yeah, so when we recorded the pick show last week, just to quickly touch on that, the audio cut out about halfway through. And frankly, it was a cursed card anyway, so...
Even after we did the pick show, which already was for a card that had been devastated by injuries, replacements and all the rest.
We then lost Boom.
We then still lost a fight.
Well, we might have lost Boom for good. They haven't really disclosed what the injury is, but apparently it could be a career ender. So,
Brian Keller has released a statement. He says he's putting his career on pause right now, but it's very unclear whether or not this is like a long-term permanent situation that's going to get worse, or if it's a situation where the UFC weren't happy for him to fight through his injury on that specific evening.
Yeah, well, I mean, it must be a pretty serious injury if they won't let the fighter, if they won't medically clear you. I mean, they used to clear Bisping with one eye. So
they didn't know he had one eye, though.
Yeah, but he was able to get around it. It must be pretty bad if, he had to, identify what it was. He said he was willing to take the risk on it. So it does sound like it must be quite a serious injury. If it's something like a knee or an arm, they would have let him fall. It's going to be something like heart or head, brain,
maybe a spinal injury.
Yeah, I remember Cain Velasquez got pulled up on that, saying he was going to get surgery after a fight, during fight week, so they wouldn't clear him. Excuse me. What card was that on? It was Cain Velasquez, so it was a while ago.
Very long while ago.
Forgive me for forgetting.
Either way, it's not good news for Kelleher, and it's disappointing for us because a card that was not looking great took another hit.
I could have done with the pick as well.
In the end, though, I'm going to be honest, for all of our shit talking on a pick show that we never released because only your audio got recorded, which would have been a very weird one-way conversation.
Your audio was recorded for half of it, but as soon as we actually started making picks, that's when it cut out.
Can I say something really stupid?
Go on.
When you said and texted me that only half of the podcast got recorded, I didn't think that it cut out halfway through. I thought what it meant is that your half of it got recorded, and it just sounded like you were having a one-way conversation with your imaginary friend.
No, we had a moment where the audio cut out on the call. We assumed it was a connection issue, but it was actually a driver issue. So it stopped recording after that on your end.
Well,
very frustrating.
We're going to check that this week. So if you managed to see this episode, it's because that did not happen.
Yeah, well, also we're both here, so
we're both here in person. There's no Wi-Fi needed. We don't need to use video. Okay, we shout a lot on this card. We didn't even release a pick show for this card.
Mm-mm.
We did not do well on the picks that we did not release for this card.
You don't need to know.
However, I'm going to put it out there. The prelims were not good, but the card itself was actually fairly entertaining.
Yeah, there were some good fights.
Top three fights in particular, I thought delivered entertainment
Yeah.
value. Some
But
talking points.
also, Padilla's performance for me was just like fantastic.
Yeah, a bit of controversy. We're going to be talking about
we'll
that.
get to that. Yeah,
Stoppages,
take
early
nothing away
stoppages,
from the performance.
late stoppages, always a heavy discussion point for us. But I think we have to start with the main event. Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. This was meant to be last week. It was meant to be 3 rounds. It became 5 rounds as a main event. Great opportunity in a stacked division for 2 guys ranked in the top 10 to really put their name forward, start putting themselves into that conversation amongst those top 5, 6, 7 guys that are sort of in, being discussed for title contention. I picked Son. I felt that it being 5 rounds rather than 3 rounds wasn't going to favour him, though. I thought that was going to lean towards Ricky Simone. In the end, I think from what we saw, I don't think it matters how many rounds you could have done it. I thought Song Yadong looked fantastic.
He did.
I thought Ricky Simone looked good early on.
Up until the head clash. And then he kind of lost his mojo after that. And then Song just started really growing into the fight. It was just...
We'll discuss that. There was a head clash. I do feel that it had an effect over the way that Ricky Simone could approach the championship rounds of the fight for reasons that we'll discuss. But I don't
know how much as an injury it affected him. But definitely in terms of just the momentum and him losing his mojo from that point on. Because there were still moments after that second round where there were opportunities in the fight where Ricky could be successful, and he was just kind of whiffing on him or not pulling the trigger, and it was just he just kind of fell out of his funk a bit. But that's on him to get that back after those moments. It's not like this win comes with an asterisk. It's Ricky it's a shit thing that happened, and then Ricky just wasn't able to kind of get back on form. Sometimes it happens, but it is on the fighter to get themselves going again.
I don't think it rocked and concussed him and physically affected him massively. What I do think... So let's talk about the fight. Round 1 starts. I thought Son was looking very patient, really didn't want to overcommit. There were a few times he tried to kind of lie on something really heavy, and he could see Simone was timing him. He hadn't got the range figured out. He was getting under his legs. He was causing him problems. I thought Ricky Simone won the first round.
Yeah, it was close. I didn't actually see what the scorecards were.
Well, we didn't. No, I didn't. We didn't get to see them, and I haven't looked at them online, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I felt that it was close, but Ricky Simone would have a lot of reasons to feel that he won the first round. Second round, I thought Ricky was winning up until that head clash happens. And what I will say is this: I still think if you look at the way that Son approaches the fight, which is that he was being extremely cautious at the beginning, he was trying to get his reads, and from about round 3 onwards, he was timing him perfectly. He was landing everything he wanted to land. He was countering perfectly. It didn't seem like at any point he was unable to either stay on his feet, or if he was taken down, quickly get back to his feet. It really felt like Ricky Simone just ran out of confidence and ideas. He couldn't get the fight to his geography. But what I will say is this: if Ricky Simone doesn't suffer the head clash, he might win that second round. I still think he would have lost rounds 3 and 4. But you get to round 5 and it's not a case of them saying, you need to knock this guy out, and so now be more reckless and more desperate and move away from what you do best, which is in the end what led to him getting knocked out. He might have been able to approach that last round differently. Son might, it only takes one takedown in the center of the octagon and a few minutes of control time when everybody's a bit more tired, and it could have swung. And I think that knowledge of thinking, crap, at best I'm 3-1 down, my game plan's gone out the window, and of course the confidence, like you say, the mojo of, man, it's not going my way, the little bits of luck that can happen in a fight are going against me.
Well, this is the thing though, even I think it was after the second round, start of the third round, where Song was kind of guiding him and was way over the line when the round starts, and basically starts in the centre of the octagon. Ricky then does a really good job of circling out and forcing Song back to where he wants the next exchange to start from. So it's like, why don't you just like make it easier for yourself? Circle him back to the fence a little bit, get him up against there, and make it ugly. Because he was kind of he was able to get up when Ricky took him down, and I think maybe just changing it so you got the fence there to disrupt that a little bit. Just make it a bit ugly, make the rounds a little closer, give the judges something to think about, and just try and steal back some of that momentum that went the other way after the head clash. But even then, I don't feel like his game plan was awful. It was just literally like there were moments where he was in the right spot to take Sung down or to actually catch him with a good shot. He just wasn't there. So
also, I think you've got to give a huge amount of credit to Sung.
Well, these are two great fighters. This was like a really good fight. This was a significant fight, and like when one of them does well, like they really can be styling on people. I mean, especially when you look at like kind of Ricky's grappling, the way he can just kind of dominate like that, the way like Sung can do it with his hands, like these guys can be phenomenal.
I agree with you. I think Sung being at Team Alpha Male, he's seen that Ricky Simone style from so many different people. The preparation against that style, he would have. It's every single guy on the gym floor, every single training partner can emulate what Ricky Simone is going to bring. So I think he had that to his favour. I thought there were loads of little things that he did though, just constantly showing that knee up the middle. It really made Ricky Simone that he couldn't. There was no point where Ricky Simone could be too far outside of range and just try and dive in for a double leg. And he was constantly just giving him that look,
and the teep
pressuring
kicks when
him.
He looked tired, just
teep kicks. And the problem with someone like Sung, man, if you can't get him to the ground, and you're a wrestler, and you're in a situation where you've got to try and stand and trade with this guy, and you've got to put yourself into the pocket to get there, and he's not going to throw a lot of kicks. You're not going to have that many body kicks, that many leg kicks to catch and try and take him down with. Like, he's a problem, man. The hands are so fast. Fast.
Yes, well, I wish he'd kind of made it a bit uglier to keep it a closer fight. But it was a great performance from Sung.
I think Ricky Simone needs a little bit more on the feet. What I mean by that is, and I felt like they kind of touched on this in the commentary during it, where there was nothing he was really throwing that had Sung
he didn't have him worried, he didn't have his respect.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you want to be a great striker. We talk about this constantly. Like, you want to mix it up, but you want to still have the base be your specialty. You want to use the hands to set up the wrestling. But you're also going to have to accept that sometimes you're going to go up against a guy where taking him down isn't an option. Maybe you're both wrestlers, and it's just going to be one of those you nullify each other and it's a striking match. Maybe you're going to come up against a Song Yadong who's really well prepped against takedown defense, who's really well prepped and isn't going to give you those kicks, those mistakes, those things that you can do to get takedowns in other ways. You need to be able to hurt the guy on the feet.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about this fight on the prelims, but this is something that I felt sneaked the fight for Cody Durden. In the Charles Johnson fight, third round, under real pressure, takedown is not there for him, but he's able to crack him with a couple of shots that get respect and just keep that pressure away, and then end up helping him get the takedown. And I think Ricky Simone, if he really wants to cross that level in this stacked division where everybody's well-rounded and everyone's a killer, that's what he needs.
Yeah. I mean, his only shot really is to round out his game, because his grappling game's not going to hit championship level. He could be a ranked fighter, but he's not.
He is a ranked fighter.
But he's not championship level.
No.
It's just rounding out his game would be his only real shot at realizing that.
If he's in a different division with his skill sets, maybe. The problem at bantamweight is, okay, maybe there's a couple of these guys with your skill set as is that you favour with, that you match up against. You look at a Peter Yan and you see what Merab did and you think Ricky Simone could implement that game plan. A couple of other people. But then it's like, are you going to beat a Yan and then a Cheeto and then a Sandhagen and then a fourth person you might have to beat just to fight the champion who you then might not match up well enough against?
So
this division's evil, man.
He's got a good work ethic, he's got good cardio. It's like, if you can be like a Volkov at 35, then you got a chance.
That's an interesting choice of comparison.
I think that's kind of like who I kind of say kind of does it the best having the best kind of all-round game.
Volkov.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Volk.
Volk. Sorry.
It's been a long day. I do not feel well today.
That was really.
Sorry, yeah, Volk.
I was trying to kind of go with you there, but I couldn't figure out where what you're.
No, you know what I mean. Like he's kind
Volkanovski.
of like the epitome of kind of like. Obviously, he has like the athleticism. He just like his fight IQ, like absorbing the information, making the reads.
I feel like Volkanovski's got his mind is not given enough. Like his fight IQ and his intelligence and preparation. I mean, his coaching team as well. Who's the old bloke? Aussie bloke.
I mean, I just said Volkov, so don't ask me right now.
I just think his team. He's got. I know he does a lot of training with
City Kickboxing, but he's
CKB. But his
trains
team,
in
I think,
Australia
are
and-
really underrated. Like what they did to prepare for the 3 Holloway fights is just insane.
Yeah, running it close with Islam, you know. Anyway, like we're waxing
digress.
lyrical on the wrong people. My point is that would be like the sort of like if Ricky Simone was gonna have a chance of like going up, it's going to be adopting that kind of style, I think.
Fair enough. Song Yudong, the skills are there, man. The hands are there. Cut against the eye with the Sandhagen fight robbed us of maybe what the end of that fight could have been, but him versus Cheeto would be a goddamn fucking bloodbath, man.
That'd be an amazing fight.
That would be an amazing fight. I want to see that fight so badly. The only thing that stops me is I kind of want to see Cheeto fight Peter Yan.
I mean, I kind of want to see Cheeto get back in the win column. So I don't think there's like easy fights out there, but I need to think about what Cheeto needs.
That's a good point. I don't know if he beat Yan. I don't know if he beat Well, they've already... Have they fought?
They fought and Song won, but it was
and
like
it was
a pretty
bullshit.
sketchy decision.
Yeah. Oh, that would be a good
That was a long
rematch.
time ago for both fighters as well.
That would be a good rematch.
Both have improved a
A
lot.
lot. Okay, we talked a lot about the main event.
Yeah.
This wasn't a great card. Let's talk about Chao Bohario taking on Michelle Oleksiejczuk.
Yep.
Finally got the name right. I thought Oleksiejczuk was fighting really well.
He always does. He's a really fun fighter.
First round, I thought the takedown offense was looking really good. He was having his moments on the feet. A few leg kicks landing, but he seemed to be doing a good job of kind of like getting that boxing range just right.
Yeah.
But Bohario doesn't give up, man. I honestly think that final takedown that got him down to the ground, I think Oleksiejczuk just thought, he's not going to shoot. I've already stopped this like 4 times in a row. Surely he's just going to strike with me. And he's just relentless, man. And once he's got you down to the ground, it's so hard to deal with.
Well, I mean, Oleksiejczuk had the same fucking thing at 205. It's crazy that he's at 205, 185. He still looks undersized. He still looks like he can make 170. But, you know, he's very accurate. He's insanely powerful for how small he is. It's ridiculous. And, you know, he's really aggressive with it. He can dart in and out. He sets things up well. So, yeah, Cal was having, like, some problems. But, I mean, he knew the only way to really finish this fight, not necessarily win, but to actually finish this fight, was probably going to be taking him down. And, yeah, I'm proud of him for chasing that one. Because that last one was a beauty. And, yeah, once you get Oleksiejczuk down, he's a much, much smaller guy, always.
Yeah.
And
Chao's top pressure is really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen anybody really manage to deal with it once he's got on top of them.
So, yeah, this it was an interesting one, because I was like, for Bohario, it's kind of like, it's not like a huge name. Even with the diehards, they're a little bit like, this guy just, why, he's like, it's like a gnome or something. Just freakishly strong gnome. I don't really get Oleksiejczuk.
Well, they're pushing him, man, because he's been in co-main events on these. It's always like a crappy fight night.
Well, they love
But
him
they're
because
always
he'll fight
putting him-
anyone. He's like a sexy Sam Alvey.
Well, also, he's in the right weight class for what he does. Because you look at middleweight, you think it's probably a ranked fighter next, based on the wins he's put together. Derek Brunson's retiring. Vittori, I think he might out-grapple Vittori, man. Like, Vittori's better than him in other areas, but there's a lot of strikers in that top 15 that I think he'd feel, you know, if he can't get them down, it's a problem. But, you know, not a lot of middleweights have had to fight somebody like a Chow for a while. Certainly not at the top of the division.
I imagine Whittaker still trains like that, though.
Yeah, but Whittaker's different level, man.
Yeah.
Like I'd back Whittaker against most people.
Yeah.
Not just most middleweights. I back him against
Right.
most people. Like,
No, he's ridiculous. That's another insanely well-rounded fighter.
yeah,
Again, with insanely high fight IQ. Fucking Australians, man. They're taking over.
they really are, man. They really are staying cool under pressure. Big win for Chow. He keeps putting it together. I think ranked fighter next, and for Oleg Zaychuk, he's in that weird spot, man. I mean, he's just got to keep trying to follow the Jan approach, man. Just don't let the losses get you down. Get back on the horse.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you first said they were pushing him, I thought you meant Oleg Zajic a little bit, because I was like, yeah, because he'll fight anyone. They love him. They'll put him in anything. Yeah, obviously they're pushing.
Chow will also fight anybody. To be fair.
Yeah, Oleg Zajic will get love, because he always gets love because he's an exciting guy, wins enough fights, and he'll fight literally anyone. I bet they probably signed him as a welterweight, and then he just got given light heavyweight fights, and he kept taking them. That's my working theory.
I don't feel like the Europeans are as big on trying to cut loads of weight. I think because there isn't the wrestling basis there, I don't think they view it in the same way. And generally in striking only combat sports, you don't see people trying to do it as much because there's an argument to say that speed's more important than power. Like, you need to have enough power for the division, but there's no point being ridiculously strong if you're then much slower than your opponent, because it's not efficient.
Yeah, although for grappling competitions, don't they weigh in on the day? So it's kind of a weird combination of like taking grappling's approach of cut as much as you physically can and still compete, with having an extra day to rehydrate.
Yeah.
So that's why it gets insane.
True. Either way, he's competitive in both divisions. He'll get back on the horse. He's a good fighter, man. He's entertaining. We need people like him. We need people like Cody Brundage. He lost against Rodolfo Vieira, but there's something about Cody, man. He's always in it. He has a go. And he will look at this fight and think, why did I pull a guillotine? Like, you're not fluffy.
I think he'll look at that first round and he'll be like, why couldn't I just finish that fight in the first round?
But you're not Anthony Hernandez, man. You're up against a jiu-jitsu legend. Like, we're not just talking black belts. We're talking like there are black belts on his black belt. And Fluffy had him tired. And that's one situation where you tap a guy like that.
Yeah.
Every other situation, you do not go for it. Keep striking. Keep hitting him. Ground and pound him if you're in the right situation. Don't go for a fucking guillotine.
Yeah, the only thing is that Brundage kind of felt like he was going to go for a ride at some point. I think he was just going to try and be dangerous on his own terms while he could, but it was a bad move. It was a weird one for stoppages. This one didn't deserve to be stopped, but there was a moment where I thought, shit, that's the end of the fight. It's going to happen now. After Brundage dropped him and started following up on the ground, and he had him in that half guard position, kind of wailing on him, I did think like Vieira was taking as long as you could fucking take to defend himself before, like, I think it was Herb Dean on this one. Like, had to make a decision about it, but he got a warning for it.
He moved every time that Herb Dean said, I need you to move, show me something.
Yeah, but moving and still eating shots isn't always the same.
But you're showing that
he was on the fucking line for me.
He was on the line, and it's weird watching this right after the next fight we'll be talking about, where there was a very early stoppage. Like, it's weird having those two things kind of like right next to each other by comparison. But listen, it's a good decision to let the fight continue if the guy ends up proving that he was still in the fight. And he was still in the fight because he won it. Survived that first round, took advantage of a big mistake. Once the fight's on the floor, it was really his to lose.
Yeah.
I needed that one to come through as well, because that got me to 500 on the picks. Well, the top two did as well, but that was... I was looking at that point at only having 2 right on the card up until that point. So I got the top 3 fights right, and that made this look more respectable. So thank you, Vieira, for saving my graces. Okay, Arosa. We love watching him fight. He's always good. Chin might be going a little bit. I think that's safe to say. He was still in this fight, though. This fight got stopped.
He's always been a bit droppable. And yeah, he really fucking dropped twice on this one. But you know what? It was just he kind of came in, and like he always has like a funky style, very awkward. It's kind of like part of his approach. And I like, he gets like a check kick, follow up with like two more shots. Then it's like right, left hook. But everything was kind of in quite a standard rhythm. And Padilla didn't take long to like pick up on it. And then as soon as like he knew like left, right, exactly what Juicy was going to be doing, Jesus fucking Christ, he just unloaded on him. For me, this was like the performance of the night. I thought Padilla looked amazing.
He did look good. The problem is, Juicy, they said there's a lot of looping shots. Nothing's really thrown particularly tight. You can time him, you can catch him. You know that, like you say, he's going to follow something like that with the 1-2. You can catch him after the first one. It's
that standard. Everything's designed to load up the next shot. It's always left to right, left to right, left to right. But like it'll be like a weird shot selection, which can leave his head open a little bit as well. But as soon as like Padilla got like the rhythm down, like which was seconds into the fight, it was just right. Where's your head? Okay, there's your head. Just
so here's the facts with this fight. I don't think that if the referee lets that fight continue for another 15 seconds, I don't think Arosa is pulling himself back into it. I think that fight is in the finishing sequence. But when you have a guy clearly back on his feet at the moment that you stop the fight, in that situation, I don't think you can stop it. I don't think that's fair to Arosa.
I think as soon as he drops him, Tyone starts running in. And I think that Tyone has Padilla in between him and Arosa when Arosa immediately pops up again. So I don't think he saw Arosa get up. But, he kind of seen Arosa get up, otherwise what the fuck was he doing? It was an early stoppage.
Yeah.
Again, refs haven't covered themselves in glory this week.
No.
It's a hard job.
And it's unfortunate as well because I really like that. I feel like Chris Tyone is one of those like under the radar refs where he doesn't get the big fights. You don't always see him on the main card, but he's such a massive fan of the sport. Like you can just tell how much he loves it. And like much reverence he has for the fighters. He's always shaking their hand, having a smile and a conversation with them afterwards.
Telling them what a great job they did.
He's somebody that's really... I tell you, there's loads of things I like about Chris Tyone. He's super sharp on fouls. He's that guy. He is looking at fence grabs. He is looking for all of these things. He is constantly communicating that to the fighters, making sure it doesn't happen. I like a guy who has that kind of control. I like the way he handles stoppages, timeouts, all that situation. I do wonder, and this is a factor, like, do you think guys that are more used to reffing the prelim fights maybe have a quicker trigger on stoppages? Because Mark Goddard's talks about this, right? That he very much, if you've got two guys that are early on in their career, he's not going to allow a fight to continue as long and for them to take the same kind of damage as he would and give the same kind of benefit of the doubt as he would in a title fight, where he understands that more's on the line, you're dealing with more experienced fighters, you have to kind of give them that allowance.
I hope not, because I think it should just be a consistent approach. I understand it's a very dangerous sport, but that's like the fighter's choice. The fighters, they're making an informed, consenting decision there. I think they should get the opportunity to fight every way the same. But I don't know. It'd be interesting. I wonder if we can try baiting some refs into doing the podcast.
See, I actually really agree with Goddard on this one. And I think for loads of different reasons. It's like, should you take potentially career-altering damage in a fight where your maximum purse is $4,000? No, probably not. But are you willing to take that risk to win a world title that might set you up for generational wealth? Yeah, I think you should be given a little bit more leniency on it.
Yeah, but before you get to the world title, you have to pay your dues and win those fights and get up the rankings. And I feel like every time you take that risk, you put all that money and that effort into camp, you should get the same opportunity everyone else does to finish the fight. I just think it's career-altering in terms of the damage, but it can be career-altering in terms of, like, do you actually get cut from the organisation you're in?
I understand.
Do you get a chance to move on to a huge contract? So
I'm not saying that we should have like some like fights get stopped on the prelims as soon as somebody's rocked. I'm just saying that like a good example for me would be, let's look at Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum and let's look at Adesanya versus Pereira, the first one. Okay. That's a world title fight, and Mark Goddard says the reason why he doesn't stop that after maybe the second Gastelum knockdown in the 5th round is because Gastelum was showing that he's still in the fight. It's not like Gastelum's just lying there with his head getting bashed in, and Mark Carlos thinking to himself, no, it's a world title fight, he might wake up, let's let them take a few more. Like, you've got to have the fighter show that he's still in there. But it's a world title fight. He was going to give Kelvin every benefit of the doubt because he's earned it. My argument with the Adesanya Pereira stoppage in the first fight is it's not a bad stoppage if that's headlining the prelims. It's not a bad stoppage if that's not a world title fight. But with everything on the line, did Adesanya, as a champion and considering the stakes, deserve an extra 5 seconds? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a little inconsistent because it's a little subjective, right? The refs got to use their best judgment. But athlete safety across all sports is becoming a more and more prominent thing. For MMA to continue at lower levels and things for like lower money, I think inevitably like we're going to see across the sport just kind of like this culture of like slightly earlier stoppages. I think we're pretty much around about where it needs to be at the moment. It's just it kind of needs to be consistent. It will mean less like Frankie Edgar's, but by the time like Edgar's like punch drunk, I think we'll all probably be like, yeah, shit, maybe you should have less Frankie Edgar's. I don't know. I sense that everything's going to keep moving towards that slightly earlier stoppage, and I would just like it all to just be fucking like uniform and consistent the whole way through, so that people don't have those moments in their career where they were like, yeah, I kind of got fucked by the circumstances. Because it's one thing if like you get injured, something like that, but if it's just like a ref on a given night going like, you're not made for this right now, and that derails your career, I'm like, that's kind of shady.
I don't think you should have early or late stoppages. I think the goal should be to start fights at the right moment. The difficult thing is that that's subjective, and I always feel like the amount of willingness a fighter's showing to continue should have a big effect. So if you look at like, and we're going really off topic here, we will get back onto the fights in a sec. If you look at like Rockhold versus Weidman, I don't care that that's a title fight. Weidman in round 3 stopped showing any interest in being in the fight when there was like 50 seconds left on the clock. Like, he's giving you every symbol of, I'm done, please stop. I was fucked up going into this fight. I was injured to fuck. I had an evil weight cut. There's nothing left of me. I'm getting fucking annihilated here. Please. Rockhold's still good at this. At this point in time. Like, that's what we need to come away from. I'd say the second Maynard fight probably should be stopped early. Third Maynard fight, if you actually watch it, he's down, but it's a lot of like, his equilibrium's gone rather than like, he's on the verge of being knocked out.
I just don't need to see a guy take that much damage, or any athlete take that much damage in their career again. I think Frankie Edgar's probably the person I've seen get fucked up the most.
Well, listen, there's a whole conversation about that in relation to skill versus...
will get... Well, I reckon they've gotten a little earlier as we go on through the sport. I reckon where it is now for like a TKO is probably where it should be, and I think it's going to be where it kind of stays. We see a lot more corner stoppages now as well, which I think is a good thing.
I feel like
that's going to be huge for like fighter safety.
Important factor.
So if refs are like going to do it inconsistently, it kind of pisses me off. But if the corner, the guys you've actually been training with, the guys that actually have your interests at heart, want to stop the fight, that I'm totally good with. Like,
well, there's a whole conversation about money and how people are paid that comes into that as well, but that's neither here nor there. Either way, I don't think Erosa is getting cut, but it is unfortunate for him. I don't think it changes the result, though. I really don't. I think that was hands down going to go the way it was going to go.
Might buy him some grace, though.
Grace is always good.
Yeah, I mean, it takes nothing away from Badia's performance, but like, I guess if I was a roaster, I'd be like, well, there's a huge fucking asterisk on this one. I'm with you. I don't think he was going to last much longer, but you don't fucking know. You never know.
Okay, let's go through some of these other fights a bit more quickly. Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I got this one right. You picked.
I picked Cortez Acosta. Fun fight.
Good fight for heavyweights, I thought, but didn't neither one look particularly gassed in round 3. Good technical striking. Really, it was just those leg kicks that did it.
Just the leg kicks I do, and if he just tried to counter him rather than just sitting there and eating him or something.
He tried to do that after round 2, but I think
Yeah.
the damage was already done. And obviously, Acosta, he's got that kind of boxing heavy style. You take away the legs, the guy just can't get the same kind of footing and grounding and confidence moving forward. But good win for Lima. He's dangerous on his right day. Okay, so we picked Josh Quinlan because we had no idea who Trey Waters is. Question: have you ever seen those Instagram reel videos of it's the black guy and the whole joke is when a fighter hasn't researched his opponent, and it's the guy this guy's kind of sitting there and the announcer starts going in and it's all just like a parody video, but he's done like 5 of these, and each one is like coming in with a record of 8,000 wins, all of them by death, from the planet Vegeta. Bro, the next week's just like, I'm fighting a human this time, right? And they start listing off like he ends up fighting like Hihachi from Tekken 8. I'm watching the broadcast, feeling like, oh, who's this Trey Waters? Josh Quinlan. It's going to be another win. Undefeated record continues. And it's when they start, okay, what could we say about Trey Waters? Standing 6'5" with a 78-inch reach, having won 6 of his fights by first round knockout. I was like, I didn't know that. I didn't realise that's who this guy was. I should have looked this up when I made this pick. I just thought it's a short notice replacement. Who gives a shit? Poor Josh Quinlan. That guy was so big, I don't even think Josh Quinlan could even figure out, like, how do I strike this person?
Yeah, he just couldn't get inside. He couldn't deal with the range at all.
And he's not a good enough wrestler to kind of go for, like, I'm going to wrestle you instead approach.
No, I mean, he had small moments in the fight. Trey Waters is fucking huge, though.
Such a big dude. It's just an insanely big dude. I mean, it is welterweight.
I mean, to be honest, like, when it's a guy you haven't seen as well, you can't just, like, pick it on, like, the record and the frame. It's like, sometimes guys just come in, just, Charlie Ontiveros.
I was
6'3"
just thinking
like,
Charlie
lightweight,
Ontiveros.
just super fucking droppable.
Yeah, but he looks skinny, though, man.
Yeah, he does.
Trey
have a nice
Waters
accent.
looked built. Absolutely
Yeah.
built. And to be honest, I think Quinlan did a good job to survive to the final bell. 3rd round, he was getting hit clean with some long range shots down the pipe.
There was that one moment he looked like he was out on his feet. That was just fucking crazy.
He's a problem, Trey Waters, man. And what was it, a week ago? 2 weeks ago or something like that? He won...
I think they said it was April 14th. So
okay, so about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 16 days.
So LFA is a Thursday, I think.
Damn. LFA champion to UFC debut to UFC winner
Thursday or Friday.
in about 2.5 weeks. Trey Waters, we know who you are now, man. I'll be picking you next time.
Yeah, it's crazy that you managed to do 2 weight cuts like that at that size. It's just insane.
He might just be one of these people that doesn't weigh that much, dude. Like some people,
It's shots
Deontay
like
Wilder
he had some
only-
weight behind him.
Deontay Wilder only weighed like 215 pounds for a few of his fights, and he's 6'7". Like sometimes guys have just got weird frames.
That's true.
Prelims, this was where the card was a bit disappointing for me, but there were still some good moments. Martin Bidet versus Jake Collier, this was not a good fight. Collier completely gassed out after a good first round because he's fat and he should be a middleweight, so he can fight for 6 minutes and then get tired.
Yeah, did he fight welterweight at one point?
He may have fought at welterweight.
But yeah, Jesus.
Martin Bidet is not that good, but he wins.
Yeah.
Cody Durden gets it done against Charles Johnson. This is probably the best fight on the prelims.
Yeah, and I was a bit worried that Cody Durden might have given a bit too much in that first round.
I think he definitely
but the
gave
third
too much
round,
in the first round.
It was running close.
He did not manage his energy well, but what I give him credit for is in that 3rd round, there was a good 1.5 where Charles Johnson was pouring it on him.
Yeah.
And just as we were talking about with Song versus Ricky Simone, Cody couldn't just turn to the wrestling. That was getting blocked. He was feeling tired, but he was able to land some nice counter right hands, rock Charles Johnson at one point, and it was just that thing he needed to get the guy off his back. That right hand he landed where he pointed at him afterwards, it's like, that's that moment. I just got your fucking respect. And it was that ended up setting up the takedown that he ends up getting. Because once he had him worried about the hands, now I've opened up the wrestling again. Great performance from Cody Durden. And as a character point, nice. Like, Charles Johnson just seems like a really cool dude. Yeah. 20 seconds before the final bell when he's taken down, and he's just patting him on the back. It's like, I'm a competitor, you've won this, I accept it, good job. And good to see from Cody Durden, who had all of the crap with the was
go
it
home.
It wasn't go home. It was I'm going to send him back to where he came from.
That
but
was it.
ate so much shit for that. Had the whole Makayev bad knockout, and since then, he's putting together wins. He's doing well. Spoke glowingly of Charles Johnson. So in a hard division, man, the guy's putting it together.
I think 3 in a row.
3 in a row, man.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get a ranked fighter yet, but he'll get a good fight.
And note for Charles Johnson as well, that guy has not stopped fighting. That was his 5th fight since his debut, which was like July last year.
And another one where he probably hasn't taken too much damage if he wants to keep turning them around.
He'll be one of those guys, man, that might be good in like 2 or 3 years' time. He's learning on the job, and he's learning in the UFC.
Yeah, that stand-up combined with Jordan Burroughs in your corner would be interesting.
Well, I just think there's
interesting combination.
You know, there's a version of Charles Johnson that goes off to the regional scenes and beats some easy people, or goes into the amateurs for 20 fights and then comes in and looks like a killer. And then there's this guy who's coming in, he's taking his licks, but I could see him in a few fights. Like I think once it clicks, once the wrestling clicks a little bit more, he'll be one of those guys that just suddenly puts together like a 5-fight win streak and looks awesome.
Yeah, very possible. Again, definitely someone that if he can get that wrestling game going, very much like I say, getting the mold of Volk. I was going to say fucking Volkov again.
So big for the division as well, man.
Stomach flu today.
Some fucking athletic freaks coming into these lower classes. Stephanie Egger lost to Alex Seaver. Alex Seaver missed weight badly, though, and did not give a fuck about it.
Yep.
And listen, you got a great win. It's a nice submission. Really nice submission. Fucked up her knee. That's unfortunate for Egger. You can't celebrate like that when you miss weight by 4 pounds. It's disrespectful.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to stop picking Egger because those ones never come
not that good. Journey Newson.
We obviously picked before Calla fell out of this one, but fucking what a great fight. What a great performance from McGee.
Gets it done. He's a lot of fun. Journey Newson.
Journeyman.
He is a journeyman, isn't he? He's also, I don't think he's got the stamina. It was a high-paced fight, but he looked like he was just a bit worn out by the time the submission got locked in. It felt like it was more of a, I'm done. Okay, you can lock this in. All right.
I think after he knocked down, he was done.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I only saw the last round of this fight, Haley Cohen versus Jamie Lynn North.
This was actually a pretty good fight. Both guys gave it their all. Both were pretty, like you could tell that they're good fighters, but they both opened up quite nervy. Cowan's made like 7 weight cuts or something on cancelled bouts trying to make her debut. It's like insane.
That's a lot.
It can't be. I'm not. That sounds way too high. Is it 7? Maybe 7 appearances cancelled, but a bunch of weight cuts in there. Either way, Horth I think missed weight. Oh no, sorry. This one, Horth grabbed the fence in the 3rd round, and then not long after that, got the finishing sequence. So it's like, wait, fucking stomach flu, bro. Yeah, so
this was a decision. So
got the 3rd round, which gave her the decision.
But she should have maybe.
But yeah, no, it was just like a bit of a bad fence grab. Definitely like she was going to go down otherwise. Again, I'm not gonna shit on her for the ref or anything. I just like it's like the same with like stand-ups and giving back the position. I would just like to have these things kind of like
I get you.
More uniformly done. I think a fence grab, you should lose position or a point. Or both. Like
depending on how severe it is.
Yeah.
And if it's the first one.
Yeah. So like first one I'd probably give up, take the position away. Second one I'd probably give the position and the point. But if it's like a persistent, like very deliberate thing, if it's like they've got their fingers through while they're like pushing off, like I'm gonna give them a warning, but I'm not gonna be like, right, get on the fucking ground.
Yeah.
It's when they grab to stop and actually prevent a takedown. When they're up in the air and then they're back on their feet. That shit I fucking hate. And that was very much kind of one of those.
Well, a bad note to start what wasn't a great card on paper.
Still
decent.
All right fight, though.
There were some decent fights. But Bare Knuckle FC had by far the better lineup, dude. I've not watched a lot of Bare Knuckle. I'm not really in it. I don't know a lot of the names apart from former MMA guys that are doing it. But I watched it Sunday morning without knowing the results. I started at Ben Rothwell versus, well, the end of Ben Rothwell's fight. I can't remember who he was fighting, but he got the win. Then move into the women's title bout between Beck Rawlings and this chick called Christine Ferreira, who was an absolute beast. Terrific fight. Gets stopped by a bad cut that Rawlings ended up getting after 2 rounds on the inside of her eye. So, bit of a shitty end. But then we got Alvarez versus Mendez. And do you know what I think the guys that really do well in bare knuckle are? It's MMA guys that were good boxers in MMA. Because there's the understanding of the differences in guard and ranges and what works and what doesn't work when you don't have the big gloves on. There's that kind of toughness of being willing to sort of take elbows and knees and all the rest. But both of these guys, man, they excellent head movement, never kept themselves on the centre line. Particularly Mendez was making such a note of constantly not allowing himself to get hit. Both guys super accurate, almost nothing landing on the top of the head to damage their hands. Everything around the face and jaw. 4 knockdowns, 2 each in the 5 rounds. And Alvarez gets the split decision win. Fucking excellent fight, man. If you get a chance, watch it. It's 10 minutes in total. It's 5 2-minute rounds. It's literally a sprint. It's over before you know it. But it was a lot of fun, man. And I watched that and thought, that's the best fight I've seen this weekend. Might be the best fight I've seen this year.
Fair.
Really entertaining.
I saw Mendez is retired now.
Hangs it up. Very respectful. Thanked everybody. Said that Bare Knuckle FC were really easy to work with. Treated their fighters really well. Had a lot of fun getting to have these kind of like last couple of paydays basically. And Eddie Alvarez
don't pay a lot.
Eddie Alvarez, I think, is going to do 1 or 2 more. He said he really liked it. He said this is for the dogs. This place is for the real dogs. And he's certainly right, man, because you can be a great fighter. Doesn't mean you're going to be a great bare knuckle boxer. And you can not be a great fighter, but be a great bare knuckle boxer, because Mike Perry in the main event beats Luke Rockhold, which is fucking insane. Yeah. The size difference.
Well, how was the fight going before he got his fucking teeth cracked?
So, Luke Rockhold, when he was landing some clean left hands. Like, he rocked Mike Perry a couple of times. But Mike Perry never gave him any room. Mike Perry would eat it and go, right, I'm closing down space right now. And nothing from Mike Perry was clean. Everything was just like big thudding. None of the hooks were tight. Everything was lumbering, landing on the top, hard parts of the head.
Because he managed to cut him all on the chin as well, right?
Yeah, well, he landed a good uppercut in the clinch. But this is Mike Perry, man. He just fights forward. They allow the clinch in bare knuckle boxing. They won't break you up like they will in regular boxing. And what Mike Perry's realised is he's just willing to get in there, like he did to Michael Venom Page, close that reach, get the single collar tie on, and just start dirty boxing. And he'll just out-grit these guys. And I think the thing that really struggled for Luke Rockhold is it's not a big space. It's a circled ring. It's not large. It's smaller than a boxing ring. Mike Perry did not give him any space. And the uppercut he landed, man, it fucked his teeth up. And the sad part for Luke is that he got paid a lot of money for this. It's a nice last payday. But
he didn't say this is going to be the last one. No, it's the last bare knuckle for him. But he's decidedly not retiring.
It's not... Luke Rockhold isn't a fighter in his heart the way that Mike Perry is a fighter in his heart. Luke Rockhold is a martial artist. And it's hard to be a martial artist in a bare knuckle boxing fight against somebody like Mike Perry. I think Venom Page realised that. Luke Rockhold certainly realised that. And when you make it just the hands, no gloves, and those shorter rounds and that kind of frantic pace, it's the kind of situation Mike Perry can thrive in, man. And he's found his home. He's found his thing. Like, he's their poster boy now. He's their guy.
Well, he's probably getting paid, well, from what I understand, all of them are getting paid more than they did by, like, the UFC.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think any one of them, apart from Mike Perry, really show any willingness to do this regularly. Like, a lot of them are like, yeah, I'll do a couple of bare knuckle fights.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, I'm glad I got paid. I'm never doing that again. And what I would say for Luke Rockhold, I always felt Luke Rockhold was more of a kicker. If you take away Luke, if you take away his legs, if you take away his knees, it's not the environment. You know, Luke Rockhold was very good in his heyday at keeping everything on that long range and not really getting hit. And he's not as good at doing that when it's just a boxing match. And
you haven't got the question mark kick. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's a shame. I know it might not be his last fight, but if his last fight was Costa, the way that fight went out, the way that he developed all of this respect from people, like, man, you showed so much heart, you showed what a dog you are, the smearing your blood in Costa's face. That's the kind of image that really turned around a lot of people's opinion on Luke Rockhold in the MMA community going out. And if you have a moment like this, I'm not saying it's his fault, but you will get a lot of those same arseholes suddenly going, oh yeah, he kind of is a quitter. He quit. That becomes the narrative.
Trolls are going to be trolls, but he was a champion in Strikeforce, champion in the UFC, fought for a really long time at a really high level, and probably has a chance of being picked up either for like a boxing exhibition fight, or might even like go do a couple more MMA fights. He did say he definitely wants to fight with gloves on next time.
Well, that's Luke Rockhold's bare knuckle story over. Mike Perry, after the fight, has Conor McGregor in attendance, who ends up doing a face-off with him inside of the ring. Not like we're going to fight. Literally, Mike Perry said, hey, can I get a face-off? And Conor McGregor came in, little drunk on his whiskey, doing the whole, hey, I've got respect for you, man. And then a lot of, I'm never retiring. I'm never retiring.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Interesting thing on Conor McGregor, has yet to enter the USADA testing pool.
Yeah.
We are 1 month away today, as of recording, from the TUF premiere. It's not really looking like we actually might get this fight, is it?
I don't think so.
I think Conor's on the sauce, and I think he knows that his pee would fucking blow up the lab right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suspect he's been getting away with it for a while, so I don't know if they've sort of changed things, or I don't know. Like, I don't think the fight's happening.
No.
He's off his fucking face.
Which is a bit of a disappointment. But good for Mike Perry. Great moment for him. Great moment for Mendes. Great moment for Alvarez. Legends of the sport who are getting this final opportunity to shine. That's everything MMA related to talk about. We did have the NFL draft over the weekend. Your team had many picks, including 2 first-rounders. My team had 4 picks, including 0 first-rounders. So I was not really overly excited. But I watched the first round. You get to your number 10 pick. I'm screaming, holy shit.
Well, we didn't get to our number 10 pick.
You traded up. But as it's approaching that number 10 pick, I'm looking at the Eagles thinking, oh my god, they're going to steal Nolan Smith at 10. That was my thought. That's where my thought was. You're going to steal Nolan Smith at 10. No, you stole Jalen Carter at 9, who dropped because of off-the-field issues.
Yeah, he was involved in some street racing,
which led to somebody dying.
And a player died.
But he wasn't driving; he was a passenger.
I don't know if he was driving a passenger, but I don't think he was involved in that moment at all. He was just there on the day, involved with the overall thing. I mean, it's like not great, but stupid shit to be doing. Obviously, people dying.
It's the kind of moment, though, that if it happens, if you're a 21-year-old kid and you're doing something stupid thinking, what's the harm, and then you face consequences, it's the kind of thing that can scare you straight very, very quickly.
Yeah. Especially now it's all real. You're actually in the NFL. We've got a high-character locker room. But yeah, took Carter at 9, Smith at 30.
I can't believe Smith fell to 30.
Managed to get fucking Kelly Ringo at the top of the 4th.
Can't believe you got Kelly Ringo. People are talking about him being a late first-round pick.
Yep, they were. We drafted a lot of Georgia players. We also traded for former Georgia player DeAndre Swift. Go Dogs.
Go Georgia and Philadelphia.
So yeah, I don't think we actually put it on an episode, but we talked like the previous week about how the Eagles were going to try and repeat with what is objectively like a weaker squad. after this last week, actually, it's like hypothetically we could have a better team than we had last year. It's gonna be interesting to see how much veterans have dropped off, how much rookies can step up, how much second year players can step up. So
I think what you can say certainly is you filled all of the positions of need while still kind of being able to go best player available.
yeah, I think Sidney Brown's like huge for us as a safety, potentially play slot as well if Maddox gets injured again. But I feel really good with having Vontae Maddox in there. Like CJGJ only came in because Maddox was out, you know.
Only thing I would say is I don't think you're going to get the same production from DeAndre Swift as you got from Sanders. But he's a player that can fill that role. I just don't think he'll do it quite to the same level.
Between like Penny, Gainwell, and obviously still got Boston Scott. We've got a pretty good running back room. It's going to be running back by committee. And it's going to be a better offensive line for his style as well. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We brought in an undrafted free agent as a punter, which means we can finally get rid of Sipos.
Nice.
Which I like.
Well, that's the side of the draft people don't talk about. So, Dolphins had 4 picks. Only really had 2 positions of need, which was desperate need, which was offensive line and tight end. And they're both positions where there are young guys that the team and the backroom staff really like and want to give a chance and see develop. I still expected a tight end. We didn't. We went for 2 positions we do have quite a lot of players in. So when I actually saw it, I was a little disappointed. But here's the logic I've come to. They drafted best player available on their board rather than we'll take a player we're not as hot on just because we need that position.
Yeah.
We picked a really good cornerback, a guy that was considered a first-round talent in Cam Smith. Considering that we've got a couple of aging cornerbacks, he can kind of shadow one of these guys. Probably means we cut the guy that we picked in the first round 3 years ago that just has not worked out. Don't hate that pick. And we've got a running back that runs a 4.32 in the 3rd round. Our entire offense is built around speed. Running back was one of those things where we signed all the guys we had last year, but none of them are outstanding. And our best one does tend to get injured. Yeah. So all of a sudden you're saying, okay, we actually picked 2 really good players there. And then in undrafted free agency, we picked up a couple of guys that were really highly rated and expected to go in the draft. So it's one of those where it's like, okay, we're probably going to sign in the preseason an experienced right tackle. We've got 13 million in one player from a post June 1st cut that hasn't been released yet. That's going to be free caps that we can get some experienced players in. And to be fair, tight end, offensive tackle, unless you get a guy in the first round, they're not usually positions where a guy does well as a rookie. It usually takes a couple of years in those positions. So if you want to win now, you might actually be better getting a experienced older vet that can slot straight in.
That's the other thing, like, it kind of gives you the opportunity to get into like week 4, week 5 and be like, oh, we win now. Do we go all in on this season? Because, teams will look to offload at that point if they're thinking their season's capsizing. Also, just because people are kind of like picking up the phone and making trades, even if you're not in a win now mode, but there's an opportunity to pick up like good players for next year, like, or even just like, have a productive season. There's always still that opportunity once the season starts. You'd rather get players in before training camp, get them with the playing book, get them with the team, get the chemistry going. But, shit happens.
I feel like we're in a 2-year window, the Dolphins, with more of the focus being that next year is going to be our big win now year. Next year, we've finally got a first-round pick. You look at the way the team's set up. So I think they might think and do a couple of 1-year contracts if they really think there's a chance now, but I think they're quite happy to try and let's see what we can do with some higher picks next year in the draft.
That's the other thing. We were very busy at the end of the trade deadline. Picked up, Joseph and Sue as well. It was just like one of those things where I was like, okay, we went in big on last year, but because it was a lot of 1-year contracts, like we had a shit ton of free agent departures, but also there was no cap hit. It's just is what it is. You kind of look to rebuild. So now that we've actually like filled the positions and everything, I'm like, I think it could be a good year.
Talking about guys that had a rough draft, obviously, first rounders. There's a whole bunch of guys that have their agents telling them, you're definitely going in the first round. Lots of teams like you. A lot of guys choose to stay home if they're not sure. They want to be with their families. If they don't get picked, it's no stress. They just wait till the next day. But poor old Will Levis, who was in that top 4 quarterbacks, everyone expected to go in the first round. His agent only allowed him to be interviewed by teams picking in the top 10. What a mistake that turned out to be. He was given every indication that he was going to be a top 10 pick guaranteed. Came down with his whole family to Kansas City, sitting in the green room, excited. And once he realised that he wasn't going in the top 4, they just kept coming back to him as he's just sitting there. And the worst part is that the way everyone kind of worked it out,
Well,
if
yeah,
he didn't get picked,
quarterback, so
if he's not picked in the top 10, he wasn't going to get picked unless the Vikings wanted to take a chance on him. And then he doesn't get picked by the Vikings. And the worst part about it is that a lot of the teams have said they had character issues with him that spoke to him in the top 10. That he was a really cocky kid, didn't have the tape to back it up, and they just thought he's going to be the kind of person that comes in and thinks he's already amazing and doesn't learn. He ends up going in the second round. But how frustrating is it that his first experience of the NFL is basically being the guy of public embarrassment not getting picked, with his humiliation and sadness.
Better that than being the next Ryan Leaf, I think.
True.
If you're going to get taken down a peg, do it before you play a fucking snap, I think. The earlier the better. If that's what he needs, who the fuck knows? But yeah, if it's like he was like the second coming of Ryan Leaf, then this is the right time to get humbled, I think.
And what's interesting is that CJ Stroud, he gets picked number 2 overall. The relief on his face, he was the guy that had a fake S2 cognitive score percentage come out, which would have made him like the worst performing quarterback of all time. Turned out to be total bullshit, but it created this whole buzz that, and his score apparently wasn't high, although it wasn't as low as what got leaked, that he was going to be the guy that fell outside and might not get picked at all in the first round. And the relief on his face when he went number 2, it was just this complete kind of like transition of different experiences.
Yeah, you do get that some years, not every year, but there are always those ones that drop dramatically. I mean, shit, that's how we picked up so much value.
Well, Levis still went though. When I think second pick of the second round. So,
yeah, but if you want to talk about rough drafts, I think the Commies and the Cowboys both had shit drafts.
Yeah,
so
Cowboys weren't happy. Commies, I think, were pretty upset that they didn't take Will Levis because they haven't got a quarterback.
Yeah, they really reached on that corner as well.
They did.
Forbes.
You know what was weird about the draft though? After the top 10, 15 picks, most people had completely different draft boards. And a lot of experts said this. There are going to be guys that some teams think are third rounders that are going to go in the first round. There are going to be guys that you think for sure are in the second round that drop down. It was a bit more of a free-for-all. Commies will be fine though, man. They've got a new owner. They're finally not owned by Dan Schneider.
They'll be fine next year, yeah. I mean, after this season and they're getting to actually have their fucking infrastructure and everything in place.
Do they change the name again though?
What?
Because they've got a new owner now.
They're changing the name?
No, that's a question though. Do they change the name
again?
Right.
So I thought you said they were changing it. To be honest, they should. The
Commies is a terrible
fucking
name.
Sucks.
It's the worst name to have for a team that's based in the capital. Such a bad message.
The terrorists would be the worst. The Commies is
that would be the worst for a New York team.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good actually. I'm not cutting that. Although, to fair play if you made it this far.
They should change. They should just try and, if they really wanted to embrace what it's like, they should call themselves the Riot Police. The DC Riot Police.
The DC ones.
Someone has to be there for the Blues. Right, we spent
a long one on a shitty card.
We spent a long time talking about very little, considering the card wasn't deep. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show. Bit of NFL at the end. We will be dropping a pick show that will actually come out this week because it's a massive pay-per-view this week. Wasn't looking so great a couple of weeks ago, but thanks to Gilbert Burns and Bilal, they've saved the card. Picks coming out. We're going to be recording that right now. Till then, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Trifo. If you will still watch.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.